Hello, one and all, and welcome to the Consistent AK podcast. My name is Luke, and I'm here, as always, with Nick.
Hello.
And we are presenting you with a podcast centered around pop culture that we do our very best to make Consistent AK just for you. This week's sponsor comes from the Canned Air podcast. Give them a like, a follow, and support a fellow pop culture podcast. Here they are to tell you more.
Hey, this is Butch Patrick. That's right, Eddie Munster.
Hello, this is Emily Swallow, the armorer from The Mandalorian.
Hi, this is Neil Ross.
Hey, this is Gates McFadden, and I'm listening to the Canned Air Podcast.
You're listening to the Canned Air Podcast.
And you are listening to the Canned Air Podcast. This is the way.
Hello, everyone. I am Jeremy Colley.
I'm Jack Doherty.
And I'm Randy Hardenbrook.
And we are the Canned Air Podcast, your tribute to comics and pop culture. And if you're looking for a comedy, comics, and pop culture podcast that features amazing guests like some of the ones you heard at the top of this commercial, then look no further than the Canned Air Podcast right here on the Evergreen Podcast Network.
All right, so this episode is all about pop culture things, what we've seen recently, what we like, what we're looking forward to. There's been a few things that we've been watching and talking about, but we've had a bit of a break since we've done one of these. So we'll just start at the start. So
yes,
shall we start with the Book of Boba?
Yes, because that's probably the oldest. I say oldest.
It
finished like 3 weeks ago.
Was it 3 weeks ago? Wow.
I think so.
Time is flying.
Started in December, which is
wow.
Yeah.
So I'll start.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a bit of a mixed response to this Book of Boba.
Yes.
A, I love Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
B, although I thought it was a bit of a slog at the beginning, I actually quite enjoyed the series overall.
Mm-hmm.
I liked like I said, I really like Boba Fett, and I thought his character just got better as it went on, or this version of him.
Mm-hmm. I
liked a lot of the side characters. I thought it had bits of humor, obviously, like some Star Wars stuff does. I liked a lot of it. I really did. I really enjoyed it, and I was generally looking forward to each episode. I know there's a lot of people saying that, spoilers by the way, that they didn't like they only liked it when the Mandalorian showed up, and it turned into the Mandalorian show. Mm-hmm. But I actually quite enjoy that. I enjoy the fact that they have this series, and then they've thrown a little bit of this, and then the series carries on, because why not mix them up? Because it's just Star Wars, isn't it? You should do some cross promoting. But yeah, I think I really liked it overall. What about you?
I was a mixed bag, but not because of online. I've seen a lot of people who are a mixed bag, mainly because of the gang.
That's the bit that I didn't like. I mean, there are other bits I didn't like, but I didn't like the gang.
They seem to be at the forefront of people being like, it was awful because of this.
They feel really out of place, and they feel really I feel like Boba Fett would have beat them up in the past.
Yeah, I didn't they were really bright, and that episode felt less like Mariachi Sin City Robert Rodriguez and more Spy Kids Robert Rodriguez.
Yes, that's a good way of looking at it.
I was like, yeah, he's gone down that route. It didn't.
Spy Kids.
Yeah, quality.
Those are the days.
It didn't put me off. My issue with it was going into it. I said this to Harry. I didn't know why they were telling a Boba Fett story. I love the character, but you need to. I feel like with any story, there needs to be a reason for it. There has to be a reason for telling this story for the character. What is the journey they're going on, and why do they want to go on it? And I don't feel like Boba ever answers that question. I think visually there's amazing things in it throughout. The Sarlacc thing at the start was great. Obviously the last 3 episodes with Mando are just fucking magic. But as a character for Boba, when you get to the end, I was kind of I don't know why he wants to be running Mos Espa. And at the end of it, he's also not sure himself, in that he's maybe it's not us that's going to be leading. And I was well, what was the point in you going on this whole story? Where's the
principle, Nick? Principle.
But I was just kind of why does he suddenly have skin in this game? And I also thought like there's an interesting like you could do something really interesting with the crime lords of Star Wars and have Boba basically have the same thing where he's like, I'm sick of fucking working for people, so I'm going to work for myself, and I want people to fear me. And I feel like they didn't go down that route because they wanted him to be a bit more heroic.
Yeah.
But it clashed with me in terms of like when you meet him in Mando, he kicks the shit into a load of stormtroopers with a like stick, and you're like, Jesus, this guy is menacing. And then in this, it's like he never really gets another menacing bit.
Yeah, he seemed a bit tame.
Yeah,
like it's like you didn't ever get the sense that without his people around him, he was going to be okay. Like he seemed a lot weaker. I don't know if that's right, considering he was in his chamber a lot to heal himself. He didn't seem to ever get that sort of second gear.
Yeah.
Even when he was fighting Cad Bane at the end, like, you know, it didn't feel. I mean, Cad Bane is awesome as well.
Yeah, it was very cool.
But it didn't really feel like he was the same version that we saw in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, and I think that was just my problem with it. Was very much like the character who the show is named after. It's not really his. Like it is his story, but there's no reason for why it's his story.
No.
And I feel like it just needed a bit more. Like the Cad Bane thing as well. I thought like it was amazing and it was great to see them show down. Like visually, that's so fucking cool. But there's no like again, there's no real skin in the game for him. Like it could have been so easy to tie that off in that you were like, he's the one that the Pikes hired to kill the Raiders. If you had that storyline, then you give Boba a reason to kill him. That Boba is like, you killed the people I like. I'm going to kill you. And you give him the revenge. And I feel like they spent so much of this show trying to make him the hero, trying to make him what he isn't. In that, like, he is a bounty hunter. Effectively, he's a vigilante. If you want to go down that road, like he does bad things for money, and they can
taking that away from him now. So
yeah, and it's like he could do bad things for a good cause. In that he could be like, I genuinely want to save Mos Espa from being battered by the Pikes, but my method of getting there is bad. Like I will do bad things to make sure that worse people aren't there. Effectively, he should be Batman.
He's very diplomatic. That's what he's trying to do. I think that's what made it quite slow. Is that it felt like every time he was walking around as well, it was kind of like, if you just walk a bit faster, like we'll get there quicker.
And there were just a lot of things in it where it sort of felt like they hadn't necessarily plotted out his story. Like they don't necessarily know where he goes, other than we've got this idea that it's going to be this massive battle. But yeah, and for me, the best episode was the one that was basically all about Mando.
Yeah, I agree.
That episode was insane. Like so well written. The CGI was ridiculous.
They hired the guy, didn't they? The guy that was redid it from the season finale of Mando season 2.
Yeah, and fucking hell, when that
crazy.
Came on, I was like, what? Yeah, that whole episode was great, and like him building the Naboo starfighter and stuff, that was just amazing.
Yeah, it was really good.
So that stuff was all really cool. So it was a weird one. It gave me some of my favorite Star Wars moments, but it also then gave me a story which I was like, I don't know why this is being told, but okay.
The stuff about his past, like when he was with the what are they called?
The Tusken Raiders.
Tusken Raiders. Like that bit I just felt was a bit unnecessary. Like I get it because you're trying to fill in the blanks from like the films to The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
To this. It was just like, it just didn't feel just. I remember my wife saying about episode 3, it was just like, just like no more flashbacks. Like because even the transition in the shots between his in the chamber to the flashbacks felt like it went on for like 10 seconds too long.
Yeah.
So, okay, it's all like distorted and everything, but I think that was a bit unnecessary. But when it got to the last three or four episodes, I think it really hit home, like a bit of a home run, other than the Spy Kids gang, which is just weird. Like, the guy did a weird spin, but then there's some awesome bits as well. Like I like the mayor's assistant. I thought he was really good, like comedic relief, and I really enjoyed, like you said, the bit with Mando's getting his ship fixed. Like that, all of that bit was really nice.
Yeah,
and it looked good as well. It did look good. I mean, they've from the Mandalorian stuff, it all looks. It's like we said it in our extra about the Matrix. Like they've really stepped it up, like both seasons of Mandalorian and this, compared to what the Matrix probably could have tried with visuals. But this was solid. I really enjoyed it. I liked the Jabba stuff as well. Like that
was cool.
All those
twins.
things and the Rancor and everything like that was really
Danny
cool.
Trejo.
Danny Trejo, yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
So I think a lot of positives. I think they'll probably learn a little bit from season 2. I think it kind of ended on a bit of a whimper. It was kind of like, this is this, but again, it was good. I enjoyed it. I think I could, if I just kept talking about it, I'd be like, poke more negatives, but I don't want to do that. I want to. I'm just happy with it. I'm happy for what it was, and I'm very excited for Mandalorian season 3.
Yes,
and I'd be excited if this got a second season. I'd be happy, and between if we get like a third and fourth season of Mando and a couple of seasons of this, and then we get the Obi-Wan series, then for a big Star Wars. I mean, I don't claim to be the biggest Star Wars fan because I'm not. I just enjoy Star Wars for what it is. Like I never come out of the films and be like, oh man, like we said in our previous podcast, like this means the world to me. I can go here or there. Like when Last Jedi came out and stuff like that, I was like, it was all right. Or obviously some people hated it.
Me and Harry.
But it was just, I just enjoyed these shows. I'm looking forward to Obi-Wan and what's to come next. So I hope they can build something really good. So whenever they do their next film, that it's potentially centered around this timeline, this time, rather than trying to go sticking to what is already out there, rather than trying to break new ground like they did with the latest trilogy. Because one day they're going to try and extend it further down the road, aren't they? But I don't think they need to do it now.
No, so, I'd actually be really. I think they are working on something in it, but that High Republic thing that Charles saw.
Yeah, that would be good.
That'd be really cool with live action. I'd like to see. I think there is something that's planned there, but
those comics are really good as well.
Haven't read them yet.
So
my nephew read the first one. I got him as a present, and he really liked it. So I was like, good.
Yeah, cool. Nice. All right, should we move on?
Move on. Let's do it.
All right. You want to talk a bit about you? So you've seen all of Peacemaker. I've seen the first 3 or 4 episodes, I think, and I've seen the end. So, but I mean, I'll just say a little bit about it, and then you can just carry on. And again, spoilers, but you can say as much as you want. I'm not going to be overly fussed if you tell me anything crazy happens. But A, intro, awesome. B, John Cena is awesome. Like I think he's really good as Peacemaker, and I really enjoy a James Gunn series because it's obviously not something we've really had before. And although I was not 100% sold on things like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 or the Suicide Squad, I still enjoyed them. But I think with this, you can tell it's kind of like when he wrote it, he was in lockdown and it wasn't intended to be something. So he's really I think he's just had a lot of fun with it. I think the side casts are really good as well, like in the episodes that I've seen. And I think it just seems like quite a bit of fun. And I've enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to finishing it as well. So, but I mean, you, someone who's seen the whole series, like, is it consistently okay, or am I in for a turning point? Because you're not overly sold on the Suicide Squad, were you?
No, I thought the Suicide Squad was okay. It just didn't grab me in any way. I think there's interesting things in it, but I really struggle with the silliness of it. I really like DC as it's very serious. I think that's why I'm the Snyder fan that I am, because it's so fucking serious. And then you've got things like Aquaman, which I really struggle with. I saw a scene of that recently on YouTube, and I was like, oh my God, as if this film exists. I've really enjoyed Shazam, and I feel like Shazam toes the line of like good humor and darkness. Like there is some really dark stuff in Shazam. And so the Suicide Squad, I think, towed too much towards like silliness and humor and just like big bombastic stuff, that I was like, yeah, it was okay. There's nothing offensive about it and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not, it's a superhero film. And I think that's what I struggle with, is when something inherently feels like it's just part of the superhero cycle that we're going through. And I feel like when films come out that sort of break that mold a little bit, they're the ones that I seem to enjoy the most. And so Peacemaker, the first three, I think I texted you after I'd watched the first three, and I was like, I'm not sold on it. And it was because it was the same as the Suicide Squad for me. It was that same humor. I really didn't like Vigilante, because in the comics, I've only read a little bit of Vigilante, but from what I gather, he's a bit like Punisher.
Yes.
And the first three, I was kind of like, I don't like the fact that he's so far removed from that origin of like bleakness and why he's, you know, a vigilante. And in the series, he's a bit more Deadpool. He's a bit more kind of like self-aware, jokey kind of thing. And I was just a bit like, I really butted heads with the first three. I was just kind of like, no, don't think this is for me. The intro is great. Like, I really do love that. That is very cool.
Yeah.
And then episode 4 came out, and episode 4 was like everything I needed it to be. And I bloody loved episode 4. It was just like, because it went dark, it went very serious.
There's a shift in tone, isn't there?
Yeah, I feel like the first 3 feel like an extension of the Suicide Squad. There's a lot of comedy in there. There's a lot of like big bombastic stuff. And then 4 is like this way smaller conversation about Peacemaker and his dad, and about trauma, and about the life that he lives, and all this stuff. And I was like, this is great. This is like interesting. And the rest of it sort of then was a mixed bag. It was kind of like, I got moments like that, and I was like, this is doing something incredible, and I'm so in for this. And then I also got a lot of moments of like silliness that I just struggle with. I think because it's just not necessarily the superheroes that I like, the superhero genre that I like.
He's appeasing to a crowd though, isn't he? Because there's a lot of people that really did like the Suicide Squad and really loved James's Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff. So I think he has to keep that in there, which is why I think the first 3 episodes are, because you are right, the 4th episode, which is the last one I've seen, there is a definite shift in with the writing and how he portrays these characters. But I think I think the first 3 to get people like on track again, like, hey, this is more of what you loved. And then he's got the freedom to change it up a bit. And obviously, from assuming what you're saying, he's probably have to juggle both, isn't he? Like, he wants to do this other side of Peacemaker, but he has to, you know, throw in the comedy as well.
Yeah. And like, you can tell they've all had fun with it. And I think that's like there's nothing about it, again, in the same way that the Suicide Squad, that I was like, this is offensive or it's bad, or, you know, it doesn't annoy me in the same way that some of the MCU stuff does, specifically Falcon and Winter Soldier. But when it hits its like heavy moments, that's when I'm like, this show is amazing. And it's doing such interesting things. And I love all the characters. The characters are great. And Vigilante, as it went on, I was kind of like, I get why he is the way he is in this world, like why they've done him this way. It might not be necessarily the most authentic version of him in terms of like, he's so far removed from his origin story. but that's part and parcel of adaptations, you know, like
Yeah.
that's always the way, is that you either hit the mark and people love it, or some people love it, some people hate it. And so, yeah, so I completely disagree with the idea that it's the best thing DC have ever done, which a lot of people have said it is. I don't think it is.
I think it's just different because it's because it's a TV show, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think they've almost realized, because obviously Marvel do well with like things like Loki and stuff like that. They can hit a home run if it goes well, and I'm hopeful for something like Moon Knight as well, if they can make it brutal, like we said before. But
yeah,
I think with Peacemaker, they're probably thinking, you know what, like this could work. Like if something like Flashpoint can reset a little bit, and if this works, and the Penguin series works, and Gotham series works, the Gotham Central series, sorry, then we've got something here. So I think that's why people are saying it's the best thing DC have done, because it's come across anyway that it's been consistently good through the whole season.
Yeah.
Whereas DC's track record generally is like, somehow Aquaman was like, oh, that's great review wise and money wise. And then like Wonder Woman 2 dipped a bit, obviously after the success of Wonder Woman. Then Justice League bombed. Scott Snyder thing did well, the cuts. And then they've had hit or miss, but this is like, this whole season was good. And the Suicide Squad got good reviews and didn't do great financially, but it got good reviews. So it's like I think that's why it's getting such good feedback. It's in all of James Gunn's like little bits and bobs maybe that neither of us really get on with. I feel like there's a lot more good there than negative overall with his things. I think it's nice, especially with that 4th episode, because I think I've said anyway in the past that Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is very much like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just literally they've changed like Groot size and like added a couple of extra characters, and the Suicide Squad just felt like the DC version of Guardians of the Galaxy, but you've taken away space and it's obviously more violent. But this was seeing James Gunn in a bit of a different way, and I guess that's come with being in lockdown as well, isn't it? Because he's written this without anyone over his shoulder really, and he's probably got the luxury now of being like, you know what, we trust you. You go with it. You run with it. So much so that they let him shoot some Marvel stuff. Yeah, while he was shooting Peacemaker.
Yeah, I saw that.
Mental.
Yeah, I think the shot of Ezra was done on Marvel's
set. Yeah,
mental. It's definitely much better than Guardians 2 in that I feel like this he's got a more interesting story to tell. And there is a purpose to it, as we were just talking about with Boba. Peacemaker has a journey, and that journey is really interesting. And the one thing that it did for me was hammer home how changing that moment is where he kills Rick Flag. Like in the film, when that happened, I was kind of like,
what a dick.
Yeah, but it didn't hit me in the sense of like, that's quite a big deal. Mainly because going into it, I was kind of thinking, well, they're going to try and kill off as many people as they can from the original Suicide Squad film, so that's like dead and gone. And so Rick Flag was the one that I was like, he will die. Like they will get rid of him. And so when he did die, I was kind of like, yeah, sure. The series then, from a story point of view, gives me like justification for that moment. And you realize like how heavy in terms of the world that thing is. And I think that's something where I was like, yes, that's done really well and it's smart. And it just, every time it kind of comes up, you're like, fuck, that was actually quite heavy. So I think they did that really well. Because I know you've seen it, the Justice League thing at the end. I know loads of people have kicked off about this because of like, there's a joke about Aquaman, and they spent years trying to and they tried to make Aquaman serious for years, and this demeans it and stuff. Like as a huge Snyder fan, I didn't feel that at all, because it took place in Peacemaker. Like if that joke had been in the Snyder cut, then I'd be like, what the fuck? But it took place in Peacemaker, which is inherently just about taking the piss out of
Yeah.
everything. So I was kind of like, I didn't have an issue with that. I did, however, have an issue with them finding out that they shot Batman and Cyborg and removed them. And I was kind of like, just whoever at Warner Brothers made that decision is just dumb. Like, Warner Brothers have made so many dumb decisions throughout the last like 10 years, mainly just not letting people follow through with their original ideas. And this feels like they've done that again. And I saw James Gunn sort of addressed it, because it was like a stunt double uploaded a picture of them in the bat suit, and they were like, I was so stoked to see the Peacemaker finale. It was great, but I was gutted that me and Cyborg were cut. Which obviously then was like, what? And
it wasn't Ray Fisher. It would have been with a silhouette.
Yeah, it would have been a silhouette. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the same with this guy. Even though he was in the bat suit, he would have been silhouette. But it's at least just you're acknowledging that version of them in a wider sense. And I feel like by not doing it, you're just making things more complicated.
Yeah.
Because when you bring those characters into a world that's shared, you assume then that everything that has happened before, even if you just go off of Joss Whedon's Justice League, which is canon, because again, great decision, Warner Brothers, like Cyborg and Batman are in those films. So
why didn't they just have Aquaman and Flash?
Yeah, like it could have been two. It like, if you're going to have four, have all of them. If you've like, it was weird. And I get that that's not on James Gunn, because James Gunn addressed it and said that it was a decision above his pay grade, and like there are reasons for it, but he can't really say, which I respected that it was like, fair enough, you addressed it. But whoever at Warner Brothers is making those decisions is like, you're dumb.
I mean, if you listen to our extra about the Matrix Resurrections, then maybe Lana did us a favor. Maybe that's why she made such a shit film.
Yeah, they're just scrambling.
She was like, where the fuck is Batman and Cyborg gone?
Yeah. I feel like there's this narrative around Warner Brothers, primarily with DC, where after, you know, David Ayer, after Zack Snyder, after like all the failed attempts of trying to make a Cyborg film and a Flash film, that there's a narrative with Warner's where they're like, they don't necessarily respect people's visions and they want the MCU, but as DC. And the things that have worked for them have been when they've let people make their own thing. Like the Batman is just about to come out, and reviews have been skyrocketing. They're amazing because they've let Matt Reeves do his thing. The Snyder Cut was fucking successful because they let Zack do his thing. James Gunn, they've let him do his thing. And so clearly letting people just do what they want with these characters works. But when you tinker, like removing two characters, it is almost like you're going, I know that Zack Snyder's stuff is loved, but we're actively trying to remove things that he is linked to.
I mean, it doesn't make sense, especially considering Ben Affleck's Batman is in
The Flash.
In The Flash, yeah.
Yeah. Like, even if he dies in it, like, which I assume he does, because how else are you going to write out Batman? I'm perfectly fine with it, because I'm like, you know, Ben is done with the role. Cool, fine. But why remove his silhouette? Like, it's just weird.
It's odd. I don't think they tend to. I think there's a lot of people in a room that don't really understand not only comics but the directors that are trying to make these films. So unfortunately, it falls flat. You just look at the difference between Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 2. When Wonder Woman was given a lot of freedom, but Wonder Woman 2 was not given a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
Too many cooks in the kitchen, as they would say. So it's it's a bummer. Like, I mean, I'm going to watch the whole series anyway, but I've seen the end, but only like very quickly, like when it came about by accident or anything. So
yeah,
but I totally agree with you. I think it's stupid that they got. I didn't actually know they cut them. I just didn't think they were there. But that's now I know.
Yeah, like that's the thing is it watching it, like it was before the guy posted it, and I was just like, oh, okay, they just haven't got Affleck, and well, they haven't got a Batman and they haven't got a Cyborg. Fair enough. But it was then that the stunt double uploaded his picture, which you just knew was going to happen. Like, if you've got somebody on set in a Batman suit, they're going to take a picture. And I just it was one of those decisions again where I was kind of like, oh, Warner Brothers, come on. I thought we were past this. So that slightly annoyed me. Yeah. Speaking, by the way, just a complete aside, speaking of David Ayer, did you see that like a really short scene from his cut came out?
No.
It's like the shortest, it's like 10 seconds. But the scene where Joker saves Harley, like pulls her off the building and he like pulls her into the plane.
Yep.
I think in the theatrical cut, he pulls her up and then she's like put in and then they kiss or something like that. And it's just like, okay. This scene, he pulls her up onto the ship and then he's just like looks at her really seriously and he's like, the shit that I have to do to like for you, we're gonna talk. And it's just tonally like a whole other thing that I was kind of like, where did this come from?
So what, are they releasing the cut, do you think? Or
I don't
is it like
know.
a teaser?
It's like literally just the shortest of clips that somebody on Twitter seemed to have been sent. So whether or not it's like a, you know, they're trying to buzz hype to get it made or what.
Yeah, leak it, yeah.
But I was like,
Deadpool it with leaking footage.
Yeah. I was like, it's a better scene for it.
Smart.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. I'll have a look.
Yeah. Give it a look.
I'll finish Peacemaker as well. Next time we record one of these, when we start doing season 3, I'll let you know how I feel about the rest of the season.
Yes.
So we have a couple other things to talk about before we wrap up. Shall we just do our usual, not everyone's going to care, but we care?
Yes.
5-minute talk about The Marvelous Miss Maisel.
Yes. I've been so excited.
It's so
about
good.
This.
It's so good. I think for anyone that doesn't know, Nick and I have a secret favorite show, and it's The Marvelous Miss Maisel.
Yes.
And if you've not watched it, as we said before, you should, because it's just one of the best written shows around, and the actors are all fantastic. Like it's one of those shows because it's set in the 50s?
I think isn't it early 60s? I think somebody's just
early
said
60s?
in an episode. I think somebody said like 62 or 63 or something.
Set late 50s, early 60s, whatever. But it's one of those shows that, although it's obviously, you know, that they all have lives in the real world in 2022, there's not 1 second of this show where you think of them as actual real life people. No. Like, the characters are their characters. Like, you just assume Abe Wiseman is Abe.
Yes.
Like, there's no actor. This guy is real. This is Abe. And the thing about the dialogue that works so well, and I think about shows like West Wing and stuff like that, where the dialogue just flowed really well, and it just is seamless. And they have these long takes, like these really long takes, and it's all funny and it's all well timed to perfection. And everyone bounces off each other, and I think that's why it's such a good show. Yeah, I think even if it's just two people together, if it's just Maisel and Susie, for instance, just the dialogue, just the way they talk to each other, and they just generally seem like they're having the time of their lives, even if it's sad or it's happy or it's angry or whatever. It's spot on. It's really worth checking out. Yeah, if anybody hasn't watched it yet.
It is honestly like one of the best like pieces of writing that I think I've come across in the last like 3 or 4 years. Like every episode has a moment where you're just like, it's like the combination of how well written it is and the actor's performance and the editing and just like costume design and set design and the way everything's done, like directing, like it is all just
it's fast paced, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, and it's perfect.
It's really good. And this season 4 it's just started. It's on Amazon.
Yes,
most places, and it's 4 episodes in, and it's really good. And they've had these few episodes now where they have, like I said, these long takes. There's this particular scene on a carousel, which is really, really well written.
So good.
And then the next episode is when they're at the table, when they're trying to set what's the husband called? The ex-husband?
Joel.
Joel's like getting set up left, right, and center, and everything. It's all just it's really good. And and my wife and I really enjoy it, and then stumbled across the fact that Nick also enjoys it, and it's great. It's really like I said, it's not the usual thing we would talk about on these podcasts, but hey, it is pop culture in a way.
It's
well worth your time.
Yeah, it's unbelievably worth your time. Like, if you can get past the name of it, which I think is the thing that people will struggle with, it really does reward you, because I think even in the first episode, there's like, I think like the first time she goes on stage, you just realize how good the writing is.
It's really, I think you have to get past the name, like you said. I would not watch the trailer.
Yeah,
I think it gives it a false representation, but I think if you can get like 2 or 3 episodes in, definitely. Yeah. If you're not hooked after 2 or 3 episodes, then don't bother.
Yeah.
If you're not sold on like Abe and Joel and Susie, then you've lost your way. But it's just a gem. It really is.
Yeah. Like, it is something that genuinely every week I'm like, oh my God, we've got episodes. And this season seems longer as well. I swear they used to be like 30-minute episodes, and this season it's been like hour.
Yes, it's been an hour, yeah. And I forgot it was actually coming on when you texted me and you said, I can't remember, you said, have you seen it? And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
It's sort of thing you think we would text about, like the superhero thing, or like, I don't know, something about a comic, but it was like, oh, Marvelous Miss Maisel. I told my wife, and she was like, oh shit as well. Like, it's our plan.
Huge. It's so good.
Check it out.
Yes,
people,
can't recommend it enough.
We'll probably just constantly use GIFs on our social media channels from this day forward. So
I also think whenever we finish the season, I feel like we will talk about it again. Like, even if it's in our season 3, I feel like Maisel's going to get mentioned, because it's
going to get its own episode.
So good.
So good.
Yeah. Before we go, I've got a couple of like quick fire things.
Yeah.
Just 2, which I've watched and I'm still watching, because one of them's still going over here and the others I'm just slowly binging. First of all, have you seen a show called Yellow Jackets?
No, but I've heard of it.
Really fucking good. Like,
okay.
It's set in the 90s. Well, part of it's in the 90s, part of it's in present day. And it's about this group of a girls' football team have a plane crash in like the Canadian forests. I don't know, whatever it is. And it's a little bit like Alive, in that it's like how they survive out there. But then you've got a present day thing of like the ones that made it back, and the life that they're living, and the secrets they have, and the things that they did over there, and that kind of thing. It's just really, really well acted, well written. It feels quite unique. Like, I feel like I've not seen anything like it for a little while. It's very dark, like it's very bleak. And yeah, I'm really loving it. Like, I wasn't sure how to feel about it when we started it, because the first 20 minutes were a bit ropey, I thought, but we're like 5 episodes in now. And I'm watching it with my mum as well. And even she's like, this is intriguing. Yeah, it's like really interesting.
What's it on?
So over here it's on Sky. I think it's Showtime though, so I don't know what you'd get it on in Norway.
Maybe Max. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Have a look.
I think actually, no, it's not. It's not a HBO production. It is Showtime. Yes, getting confused with the other show. So the other show that like I fucking love at the moment, and the writing is so good, the acting is insane, and it's a limited series. Like, I'm pretty sure they're only doing 1 series. Is Station 11?
Yeah, I've heard about this as well. No, we haven't started it, but we do have it here.
Yeah, because it's HBO Max, so I figured you would.
Yeah.
It's so like, I think you'll really like it. It's very bleak.
I like bleak,
but it's not like trudging through bleakness. There's like moments of joy and like moments of like real kind of just like, you know, when you watch something and you're like, this is just fucking cool. There's a lot of that in it. And I love the lead actor in it is an actor called Mackenzie Davies, and I just love her. She's just incredible. And yeah, I think you'll really dig the setup for how they do the story, because it's related to comics. And I feel like it just does something really interesting, and in terms of like a post-apocalyptic kind of world, it's really smart. Yeah, I think it's come out at a really interesting time, because the story is about a flu that kills like 99% of the population.
Oh, okay.
So it's come out at like a time when it's like, oh, we just had a pandemic about a flu. But I was reading something about it and how they shot it. So they started filming before COVID, they filmed during COVID, and now they filmed after COVID as well to try and finish it. So they were like, we were making a series about a pandemic and like living through a pandemic.
That's mental.
In 3 different times. And yeah, it feels like one of those shows where like everybody's just worked in sync and everybody's kind of like loving it. And yeah, it's just really, really addictive. And it's weekly over here. So it's like one episode a week. And so like every week it's been like, get me to Sunday because I really need to see the next episode.
Oh, check it out. You'll be happy to hear that we've just started Heels.
Oh my God, what do you think?
Yeah, it's good. We only watched one.
It's good.
So we got that in our pipeline. The other thing I wanted to talk about for you guys, although you haven't seen it, is Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness trailer.
Yeah.
Because they did a little trailer at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, which wasn't really a trailer. It was more like throwing together clips, I guess.
Yeah.
But this trailer is really good. Like, I wasn't sold on it necessarily at the beginning. I'm sold on the idea, but I didn't get enough of it. But now I'm like really in, because it looks dark. It's like very Sam Raimi with some of the cuts, and there's a particular bit with Scarlet Witch where she's Wanda and she's got blood dripping down her face, but the camera lens goes through her eyeball.
Cool.
Which was pretty cool. And there's lots of small hints of like an evil Doctor Strange, and there's lots of really, really cool visuals. And there's a spoiler, I guess it's their spoiler twist at the end, which looks like it's a multiverse, like a different reality with variants potentially, but there's essentially, it looks like the Illuminati from the comics, which if they're following the comics is Professor X, Reed Richards, Neymar, and someone else.
Isn't it like Black Panther or Black Bolt?
Black Bolt, that's it.
Yeah.
So you see this kind of throne room area of these chairs, and Doctor Strange goes in there, and there's definitely a strong hint of who one of them is, because he has a little voice cameo, which you've already mentioned before we recorded. So it seems to be Professor X from the original X-Men films with Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
Which kind of opens up a whole door, because there are all these leaks that, like, you know, Mr. Fantastic is in it from the original Fantastic Four films, and Tom Cruise is Iron Man and all this stuff. But it's all, again, it could all just be smoke and mirrors. But I think we're in for another film where there are a bunch of like, don't ruin this film for anyone type vibes. Whereas I think when the Thor trailer comes out later this week, I think that's going to be kind of like oh yeah, everyone can talk about everything because there's nothing to hide here. It's literally just it is what it is. I think this is going to be good. I think I'm excited because, like we said about Moon Knight, hopefully being a bit brutal. And now that the Netflix shows are officially coming over to Disney Plus, I hope that opens the door for more of like of the brutal stuff that's needed in some of these Marvel shows. But yeah, I think it looks really good. So I'd be interested to see, if you do watch the trailer, what you think of it before it comes out. But
yeah, I'm not I'm like, because Patrick Stewart's been rumored for it for ages, and I've always sort of been in the boat of like, I don't want him in it. Not because he's going to be the Professor X of the MCU. Like, I don't think he will. He will literally be a cameo. The guy's like almost like, I think he's like 82 or something. So I was like, there's no way he's going to be in the MCU for the next 10 years. But I just don't. He has such a perfect send off in Logan that I just don't want to see him in the role again. Like, I just. It would be like if they brought Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine. Like, as much as I'd love to see him and Deadpool in the same scene, it taints what Logan does so well. Is that Logan is one of those first films where they actually tie off a superhero character. Like, they go like, this is this is the end. And I don't think we'd had Infinity War Endgame by the time Logan came out. I think Logan might have been the first one to properly like nail in the coffin of certain X-Men characters.
Yeah.
And I felt like, and that's so poignant. Like Professor X in that and Logan's relationship is amazing. Like their conversations through that film and the way that both of them go out is just like, I don't want to see them pick up those roles ever again, because I'm completely content with that. I get for some people that it's like, I want every like every Marvel character possible that's ever existed in this film. Like I fucking hope Ghost Rider's in this film. Nick Cage, just give me Nick Cage's Ghost Rider. Yes.
Don't give me Nick Cage's Ghost Rider. Never ever give me Nick Cage's Ghost Rider.
I hope he's in it. But
God, I want to watch Logan now. That's what I want to do.
It's amazing. And I just, that's always been my issue with this Doctor Strange thing, is that like, I know you obviously need him in it, but why can't you introduce the MCU's version of Professor X? Why does it have to be Patrick Stewart, other than, you know, this is a throwback and people are going to want to see this? But
I think you just got to hope that, I think for all the way I'm looking at it, I really hope it really ties into Loki and some Quantumania with the villain. And I hope it's just a variant, like it's just a bunch of variants, and like it's all about, like, for me, the way Doctor Strange has to happen is it has to have Loki in it at some point. Like Loki being almost hero Loki has to be the one who's like, things are really bad, and like what you've done is made things a million times worse. These are all fucking variants.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck these guys. let's roll on together. So I'm not like opposed to it really. I think it's a cool cameo. I mean, it's definitely another reason for it's trying to get like bums in all these. Patrick Stewart's not enough to sell it really, so I think he's going to have just a very small part. I think. I don't know. There's a lot in the trailer to unpack. I mean, there's fucking Ultron robots and everything. So, you know, there's all sorts going on, Nick. Yeah. Okay. So check it out. I'm excited about it, but we'll definitely talk about it when it comes out in May. I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's end of May.
Actually, just right around the corner if you think about it. All right. So that's it for this episode. But just one thing before we do go, which is to plug what's upcoming. So we're both going to be seeing the Batman film this weekend.
Yes.
And we'll be diving straight into our in-depth episode on it next week, which will hopefully be out same week, so later next week. Yeah. So it'll be full of spoilers. So we hope a lot of people that do listen get to watch it before we get to put this out there, so you can enjoy the episode. And I guess we're both just really excited because it's been a long, in-depth run. So we're culminating with this. So good times ahead.
Yeah, tell me about it. I'm so ready for it to just be dark,
amazing,
and gritty.
I've heard dark, I've heard scary, I've heard action-packed, I've heard
amazing.
I've heard lots of things. I've heard a lot of things otherwise as well, which we should probably talk about afterwards, with what people had hoped it would have been, or what the next incarnation of Batman should be. So I wonder how I'm going to walk out and feel, but I'm up for it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, me too. I'm very ready for it. And also it feels weird having like built up to it so much, like having done our in-depth series. Like I was thinking about this the other day, that it just feels weird to have, like, back in, it would have been like April, May last year, that you and I were kind of like, let's go for the in-depth.
Let's do this.
And now it's pretty much here. It's kind of like, whoa.
We had to watch Batman and Robin and Batman Forever.
It was great. I really hope that they reference those in the Batman.
Well, I mean, as of now, the Batman's getting good reviews, get a lot of praise. So I think you just got to, hopefully we both come away liking it, and when we pick at it, we'll be doing it for the good reasons, not for the negative. So
yes.
So that's coming up. So that's it for this episode. If you want to find out more about the Consistently OK podcast, you can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Consistently Pod, and on YouTube by simply searching for Consistently OK podcast. We stream on all podcast services, with each episode coming out fortnightly. We also have some extra content for you this week as well, where we talk about the Matrix Resurrection, so you can find that as well by subscribing to our podcast extras on Apple. All right, so thanks a lot, Nick, and hope everyone stay safe.
Yeah, cheers to you, dude, and yeah, thanks everyone for listening. It's a
All right.
pleasure.
I'm sure everyone will enjoy the Batman and tune in next time.
I hope so, and I hope everyone goes and watches Maisel.
Yes, fuck the Batman. Go and watch Miss Maisel.
It's out the same
You've
day,
got
actually.
three seasons to watch. Yeah, what are we gonna do?
Batman's out on Friday. You've got another 2 episodes of Maisel out on Friday.
Best Friday ever.
Yeah.
All right, take care, all.
Catch you
Bye-bye.
later. Bye.